my mother declared. "You lack ambition." While concealing my wife's infidelity with my brother for a decade, I sought my retribution. I found out that my wife was pregnant, yet the child was not my own. It was a possession of my younger brother. The true blow to the stomach? My own mother was aware all along and attempted to conceal it. She seemed to believe I was more suited to navigate the aftermath, given my steady income, my home, and the promise of what lay ahead. Upon uncovering the betrayal, I swiftly initiated the divorce proceedings and shared the entire account with my father. He assumed command following that moment. At the age of 31, I find myself navigating the intricate world of project management within my father's construction company, nestled in the vibrant city of Phoenix. Since the age of 15, I have been diligently working my way up, beginning from the very bottom and steadily ascending through the ranks on numerous platforms. My annual income hovers around 85,000, excluding bonuses, and I possess a home acquired before my marriage, which has seen an appreciation of nearly 6 figures. Rachel Miller, my former wife, is 29 years old and pursues her career as a nurse, earning approximately 70,000 each year. Our paths crossed during her time in nursing school. In those days, she appeared driven and full of aspirations. I had faith that we were journeying together along the same road. In retrospect, I can see that I missed several warning signs from the very beginning, such as her unabashed flirting with a bartender on our first night together. My father, Robert Carter, embodies the quintessential self-made man. At the age of 18, he embarked on a journey in construction, transporting lumber and driving nails, all the while attending night classes to enhance his skills. With relentless determination and unwavering discipline, he ascended into the realm of large-scale commercial construction, forging the company from the ground up. He possesses an unwavering intolerance for idleness or justifications. Karen Lewis Foster, my mother, stands in stark contrast. She departed from her mundane office position ahead of schedule, now indulging in extravagant shopping excursions and idle chatter, all the while elevating my younger brother Ryan Scott to a status akin to that of a messiah. She maintains a facade of composure in public while subtly orchestrating turmoil behind closed doors. At 26, Ryan Scott has navigated life relying solely on charm, managing to achieve much with seemingly little effort. My father welcomed him into the company with a fundamental office position, merely fielding phone calls at an annual salary of 55,000, with the hope that it would inspire him. It did not. Ryan Scott strolled about, exuding an air of entitlement, as if the mere act of his presence warranted gratitude from the company. As the days turned into weeks, my father endeavored to place him in the field, beneath the relentless Arizona sun, believing that the toil would mold him into something stronger. Yet, Ryan Scott seldom endured beyond a single shift. In the meantime, I found myself immersed in the demanding tasks of mastering electrical systems, honing carpentry skills, tackling concrete work, and perfecting drywall techniques. At the age of 20, I found myself at the helm of managing housing developments. At the age of 24, I achieved a promotion as a result of my performance. Ryan Scott, on the other hand, withdrew to the office, embodying the persona of an executive, showcasing ostentatious designer attire and cruising in a leased BMW as if he had truly arrived. During family dinners, my mother lauded Ryan Scott for simple accomplishments such as arriving punctually, while I was overseeing million-dollar projects. Upon purchasing my home, Ryan Scott couldn't help but make sarcastic remarks about my supposed luck. Upon receiving my promotion, he dismissed it as nepotism, conveniently overlooking the 10 years I dedicated to deserving it. 2 years prior, Ryan Scott encountered significant financial difficulties. Credit cards, car loans, the familiar routine. Father extended a loan of $150, accompanied by a pledge of repayment. Ryan Scott initiated a few payments, only to subsequently default. Endless justifications, yet no sense of responsibility. In the early days of our marriage, Rachel Miller and I found ourselves in perfect harmony. I managed the financial aspects and oversaw the necessary repairs around the house. She orchestrated our meals and curated our social engagements. Sundays held a unique charm. Her meals evoked memories of my grandmother's kitchen. We had aspirations, genuine individuals. Following our third anniversary in October 2022, we embarked on the journey of trying for a baby. She discontinued her use of the pill. We meticulously followed her cycle and even selected names with care. In January 2023, my father secured a significant hospital renovation project. Half a year, $2 million. The magnitude of the task was unparalleled, and I found myself at the helm. The construction of hospitals is a rigorous endeavor. Stringent rules, relentless scrutiny, no room for mistakes. I found myself toiling through long hours, often stretching into the nights and spilling over into the weekends. Initially, Rachel Miller was my ally. She would arrive with dinner at the site, sharing dreams of our future together. Our intention was to allocate the project bonus towards settling the mortgage and embarking on our investment journey. Yet, a shift occurred. She began to devote more of her time to a colleague, Emily Parker, an adventurous and vivacious travel nurse. In an unexpected turn, Rachel Miller began to venture out 3 or 4 nights each week, unraveling the fabric of our once stable routine. Engrossed in my tasks, I failed to perceive the true nature of the situation unfolding around me. As February approached, Rachel Miller's schedule began to raise eyebrows. She once held a position that required her to complete 3 standard shifts each week. Now she was asserting additional hours, unexpected training sessions, and unforeseen emergencies. In the interim, RYN Scott took it upon herself to stop by during my absences, arriving with coffee in hand and tending to the tasks I had yet to address. In that moment, I entertained the notion that perhaps he was on the cusp of maturity. Perhaps the increased responsibility was aiding in his transformation into a more dependable individual. Unbeknownst to me, as I orchestrated the most significant project of my career, my brother was entwined with my wife in the very home I had crafted for our shared life. Initially, I perceived RYN Scott's recent behavior as a sign of development. He abandoned the ostentatious attire, began arriving at work punctually, and even dedicated additional hours. Father was beginning to think that RYN Scott was finally rising to the occasion, and I allowed myself to entertain that notion as well. As the hospital project concluded in March, ahead of schedule and within budget, I found myself eager for a return to the familiar rhythm of everyday life. The company celebrated a monumental victory, yet, upon returning home, I swiftly became aware that something was different. Rachel Miller found herself perpetually immersed in her work, laboring late into the night, stepping in for others, and navigating unforeseen crises. Yet, with my increased presence, peculiar details began to surface, such as the 200 she consistently withdrew each Friday. When I inquired, she dismissed it casually. Evenings dedicated to the company of women. I rely on cash to keep my spending in check. It seemed plausible at first, until the memory of our meticulous tracking of every expense together resurfaced. Now, she withdrew money each week, her silence speaking volumes. Then, there lay her phone, perpetually cradled in her palm. A smile dances across her face as she gazes at the screen. Yet, as soon as I stepped inside, she would either secure it or turn it upside down. I inquired about the identity of the person she was perpetually messaging. The response remained unchanging. Shall we engage in a discussion within the workgroup chat? Of no significance. As April unfolded, I began to observe physical manifestations as well. Each morning, Rachel Miller found herself succumbing to waves of nausea. I inquired about her well-being. She attributed her absence to a stomach bug at work and mentioned that she was consulting a doctor. Yet she firmly insisted that I should not visit. Unbeknownst to her, I had been meticulously monitoring her cycle from the moment we embarked on our journey to conceive. She had kept everyone waiting for 3 long weeks. Such an occurrence had never transpired prior to this moment. When I mentioned it, her response was nothing short of explosive. "Why do you observe my body as if I am merely a subject of your experimentation?" She broke. "I am capable of taking care of myself. Cease your attempts to dictate my actions." Her outrage erupted unexpectedly, particularly given that we had been monitoring everything together for months. The transition was unmistakable. Simultaneously, I observed something peculiar about my mother. She ceased her calls to our house phone and began conversing directly with Rachel Miller. Their conversations unfolded in hushed tones, lingering and shrouded in secrecy. In the yard, concealed behind closed doors, once, I overheard my mother remark, "He won't discover anything through the bedroom door." My mother and Rachel Miller had always maintained a certain distance. In an instant, they became inseparable allies. As I strolled into the kitchen, I found them engaged in a conversation on speakerphone. The tone of my mother shifted in an instant. "Ah, so Michael Carter has returned home? We'll talk later," she said, and then she hung up. That moment ignited a transformation within me. I began to observe all that surrounded me with keen interest. Rachel Miller's tales from the hospital began to unravel into a tapestry of confusion. She had asserted that she had endured a grueling 12-hour trauma shift. Yet upon her return, she appeared remarkably unscathed, no traces of blood, no hint of antiseptic, and certainly no sign of fatigue. The pieces simply did not align. On a Tuesday in April, my truck unexpectedly broke down, prompting me to catch a ride home with one of my foremen. As I stepped inside at approximately 2 p.m., a full 5 hours ahead of my usual arrival, the sound of laughter greeted me. Rachel Miller's laughter rang out, a sound I hadn't encountered in months. As I turned the corner, I discovered her perched uncomfortably close to Ryan Scott on the couch. Their stance whispered of closeness. Upon realizing my presence, they sprang apart as if caught in a moment of youthful indiscretion. Rachel Miller's complexion drained of color. "What brings you back home?" Ryan Scott stumbled, sending his coffee cascading to the floor. I happened to be in the area and thought she could use some companionship. He offered me a coffee, attempting to disguise the gesture as considerate. Silence enveloped me, yet within, a fire raged. That night, slumber eluded me. My instincts whispered that the truth lay before me, her unpredictable hours, the concealed phone calls, the signs of pregnancy, and Ryan Scott, unexpectedly stepping into the role of the worried brother-in-law. Everything was beginning to fall into place. With the dawn of a new day, I plunged into my task. I reviewed the records for Ryan Scott's company truck. Every vehicle was meticulously tracked through the precision of GPS technology. In recent months, his logs revealed a pattern of visits to our neighborhood, often during my work hours, as well as to upscale restaurants and hotels in Scottsdale. None of it connected to any endeavors. Thus commenced the journey. Next, I accessed our joint calendar. The convergence was instant and unmistakable. Whenever Ryan Scott's truck emerged in a questionable location, Rachel Miller's plans would inexplicably shift as well. Additional shifts, urgent calls from the hospital, crises that demanded immediate attention. I pressed on beyond that point. I delved into our shared bank account, tracing back over the course of 4 complete months. The pattern demanded attention, refusing to be overlooked. Each Friday, she took out precisely $200 in cash. It was then that I observed transactions for upscale dining establishments and chic hotels in Scottsdale, on the very days she asserted she was working double shifts at the hospital. 180 spent at Fleming's on a Wednesday evening, 220 at the Four Seasons for tea on a Thursday, despite her claim of having training, and 95 for brunch at a hotel bistro on a Sunday, a day she claimed to have taken on a sick colleague's shift. I began to meticulously document every detail, a meticulous daily record of her articulated intentions contrasted with the insights revealed by the data. With each entry I made, clarity emerged like a dawn breaking over the horizon. I reached out to the hospital to validate my suspicions. Under the guise of a concerned family member facing an urgent crisis, I requested a transfer to Rachel Miller's department. The front desk nurse conveyed with courtesy that Rachel Miller had not been on duty and had been absent for the past 3 days. On that particular Wednesday, Rachel Miller mentioned that she had just completed a grueling 12-hour shift on Tuesday and was preparing to return for another that evening. In that instant, the shroud was drawn aside. The following day, I informed Rachel Miller that I would be remaining at home due to a stomach bug. She departed for what she asserted was an obligatory safety training session. As soon as the door clicked shut, I made my way directly to the family computer we shared. We had consistently relied on the same password, T. Medina, in the year of our Lord 2019, a kitschy keepsake from our most recent anniversary getaway. I accessed her email, my heart racing, fingers quaking. At the very top lay a thread connecting her to my mother. What should the subject line be? Ensuring that Michael Carter remains oblivious. I stood still, caught in a moment of disbelief. The mere act of reading those words churned my stomach, yet I compelled myself to pry it open. Months passed, filled with an exchange of messages. The beginning was unhurried. February, my mother inquired whether Rachel Miller was truly sure about the unfolding events. She urged her to tread carefully, suggesting that it might merely be a fleeting phase. Yet, in just a matter of weeks, the tone began to change. They commenced their strategic planning. My mother was diligently instructing her on the art of deception directed towards me. Ideas for justifications. Which shifts are to be claimed. When to mention that she was held up at work. She even extended an invitation to her home as a meeting place during my father's late meetings or golf outings. One email from March struck with the force of a freight train. Every Thursday at 2, Robert Carter indulges in his cherished tea time. He will be absent until at least 6 o'clock. Should you choose to park behind the alley, DK, one may enter through the side door of the garage. I will ensure that none of the neighbors become aware of anything amiss. Yet another. Imagine you find yourself on a night shift this Tuesday. Robert Carter will be engaged with clients until 10. The house stands vacant. D.K. informed his roommate that he would be at a job site throughout the night. Then arose the conversation surrounding the pregnancy. In the month of April, Rachel Miller found herself with a scheduled appointment at her OBGYN's office, 8 weeks into the journey. Yet, a veil of uncertainty hung over the father. My mother's response was utterly repugnant. It holds no significance. Allow Michael Carter to believe the child is his. He will rise to the occasion. DK is not prepared for the responsibilities of parenthood. Michael Carter possesses the job, the house, the stability. He is destined to be a more exemplary father, without a doubt. Yet another. Ryan Scott lacks the fortitude for genuine responsibility. This arrangement proves to be most beneficial for everyone involved. One attains a sense of financial stability. D.K. remains unbound. Michael Carter finally attains his long-desired aspiration. A family unit. Rachel Miller hesitated, a flicker of doubt crossing her mind. What if Michael Carter realizes the baby bears a resemblance to DK? What if he uncovers the truth? My mother replied with an icy demeanor. We shall address it at a later time. Simply maintain the illusion that everything is as it should be. Engage in intimacy with him frequently enough to maintain the narrative's credibility. Time slipped away as I immersed myself in the pages, savoring each word. My heartbeat raced uncontrollably. The betrayal cut so profoundly that it seemed almost surreal. My wife, my brother, and my own mother, weaving a tapestry of deception behind my back, crafting a reality for me to inhabit, one meticulously constructed falsehood at a time. I meticulously gathered every damning message, captured screenshots, and collected receipts, transferring the entire trove to a USB drive, and printed out the most egregious examples. My hands quivered, yet my thoughts cut through the haze with precision. My wife, my brother, and my own mother had been subtly unraveling the fabric of my existence for months, convinced I would remain oblivious to their machinations. They believed themselves to be quite astute. They were not. I immediately reached out to my father. Father, I require a meeting at the office. At this moment, this matter is pressing, and I find it difficult to convey the details over the phone. 20 minutes later, I found myself in his office, laying the truth bare upon his desk. All things, Rachel Miller's affair, the pregnancy, Ryan Scott's involvement, and the unsettling revelation that Mom hadn't merely known about it, she had played a role in it all. Arrange it accordingly. My father remained silent for an extended period. He remained still, taking in the gravity of the situation. When he finally uttered a word, his voice carried an unsettling calmness, chillingly steady and meticulously controlled. This is war, he declared. Let us convene at Marcus's office in 2 hours' time. Keep your silence. Let no one hear a whisper of this. We are securing this legally before proceeding with anything further. For years, David Kim served as our corporate attorney, a meticulous individual known for his unyielding ferocity in the courtroom, particularly when it comes to divorce proceedings. Father had taken the initiative to make a call in advance. Marcus had meticulously cleared his calendar. Within the confines of his office, we laid out all the evidence as if we were gearing up for a dramatic courtroom showdown. He examined each document with a detached precision. A series of email exchanges, GPS tracking data, financial statements, questionable charges at restaurants, and discrepancies in Rachel Miller's hospital work schedule. After 20 minutes, he lifted his gaze and offered a subtle nod. The house stands impervious, untouched by time or circumstance. You acquired it before the vows were exchanged. It belongs solely to you. And what is it that you have presented to me? We can act swiftly and protect your assets before this situation escalates. His counsel was straightforward. Transfer all joint funds without delay. Safeguard my retirement accounts. Document each encounter meticulously. There were no confrontations until the legal framework was firmly established. After departing from his office, I made my way directly to the bank. I moved 95,000 from our joint savings into my personal account, ensuring that 50 remained to avoid raising any eyebrows. I took great care to ensure that the 140,000 I had invested before our marriage stocks, 400 NEC, and everything else was meticulously documented as separate property. Rachel Miller possessed no rightful claim to it. In the meantime, my father was orchestrating his own strategies. He dialed the office and revoked Ryan Scott's access entirely. The company truck is no longer available. Cease the use of credit cards. There is no building badge available. He directed Karen Lewis, our administrative manager, to reallocate Ryan Scott and secure all operations. Come Monday, Ryan Scott found himself facing a frustrating reality. His keycard had ceased to unlock any door, and his truck stubbornly refused to start. I closed all but one joint credit card, leaving a 20 limit, as a precaution against any potential financial retaliation from her. I have also rescinded her access to my personal accounts. Each action was deliberate, measured, and entirely within the bounds of legality. On that very night, as Rachel Miller stood beneath the cascading water of the shower, her phone illuminated with a message from Ryan Scott. I have been anticipating a moment such as this. I eagerly anticipate our gathering at Mom's tomorrow. With Dad working late, it seems we'll enjoy another evening of solitude in the house. Remember to bring along what you gathered yesterday. It was an affirmation. The affair not only persisted, but it was also growing more fervent. I captured a screenshot and sent it along to Marcus. That text was the ultimate conclusion. I reached out to my father, conveying that the moment had come to lay the trap. On Saturday night, we planned to gather the family for a dinner at my home. He grasped the essence without requiring the specifics. He reached out to my mom and Ryan Scott individually, informing them that I had a significant announcement to share. A moment deserving of celebration. An occasion of such significance that attendance was mandatory for all. A well-deserved advancement. A journey of anticipation. Perhaps a fresh abode awaits. He allowed their imaginations to roam free, crafting whatever visions they desired. I mentioned to Rachel Miller, in a relaxed manner, the dinner planned for Friday evening. The moment I brought up Ryan Scott's attendance, she became rigid. Her smile dimmed. "What is this all about?" she inquired. "What prompts you to organize a family dinner so unexpectedly?" I believed it would be pleasant. With a smile, I announced that I had some good news to share. With renewed determination, she pressed forward once more. "Should I prepare something extraordinary? Is it grave?" "There is no cause for concern," I responded. "The food is all taken care of." She found that response unsatisfactory. "Your words send a chill down my spine, Michael Carter. Take a moment to unwind. The revelation awaits you on the morrow." The following day, Saturday, April 29th, I prepared the house as if I were arranging a scene for a grand performance. At my place setting at the table, I positioned a manila envelope filled with the divorce papers. I crafted a second envelope for my father, this one containing printed emails, featuring the most incriminating exchanges between Rachel Miller and my mother. I prepared a certified check in the amount of dimes, 15,000, addressed to my father, the precise sum that his mother had coaxed him into lending R.Y. Scott during one of his financial crises. He was entitled to restoration before chaos ensued. Rachel Miller wore an air of unease throughout the day. She paced around the kitchen, repeatedly inquiring about the nature of this announcement. I simply instructed her to hold on for a moment. I prepared my signature tri-tip roast, accompanied by chimichurri, a cherished dish for our family gatherings. I yearned for a sense of normalcy, clinging to it until the moment it slipped away. Mom was the first to arrive, enveloping me in her signature, theatrical embrace, and promptly inquired about Rachel Miller's whereabouts and the nature of the grand surprise. Her father entered quietly, his expression a mystery, offering me nothing more than a nod. 20 minutes later, Ryan Scott made his entrance, clad in a flamboyant shirt, his trademark smug grin firmly in place. He offered a casual pat on my shoulder, as though we shared an unbreakable bond of friendship. "What's the latest, my friend? Is it true that Rachel Miller is finally expecting? It certainly took its time, didn't it?" He uttered it with a sly grin, the sort of smile that dances on the lips of those who believe they've triumphed. He believed he had triumphed over me, shared a bed with my wife, while secrets unfolded in the shadows, eluding my awareness. Rachel Miller hardly grazed her meal. She toyed with it, her gaze flitting back and forth between Ryan Scott and me. Mom filled the stillness with trivial talk about the weather and church gossip, yet the atmosphere crackled with unspoken tension. Once the plates were cleared, Dad lifted his beer and beamed with a smile. "Well, my boy," he remarked, "the stage is yours. What are the latest updates?" I rose from my seat, extended my hand toward the envelope, and offered it to Rachel Miller. "Michael Carter is my son, indeed. I don't know, it just demonstrated that blood holds no value when one turns against their own family." Rachel Miller erupted in tears, nearly gasping for breath. "Michael Carter, I implore you. The child might very well be yours. We shall proceed with the test, yet it alters nothing in the grand scheme. Our story has come to an end." I presented my father with the check I had meticulously prepared. "This pertains to the loan you extended to him, the one he will never repay. You are worthy of more." He gazed at the check, then shifted his attention to R.Y. Scott, sprawled and bleeding on the floor, before finally resting his eyes on Mom, who was desperately attempting to lift him from the ground. His voice cut through the air like a shard of ice. "Karen Lewis Foster, please put on your coat. We are departing. A lengthy discussion between us is essential." Once they departed, the house succumbed to a silence that resonated more profoundly than the previous chaos ever had. Shattered plates lay scattered across the floor. A dining chair reduced to fragments, and crimson stains marred the floorboards. The divorce papers remained splayed across the table, a silent testament to the unraveling of a shared life. Rachel Miller remained motionless, her eyes swollen and crimson, the remnants of her makeup a chaotic blur. "What comes next?" she inquired softly. "At this moment," I spoke with a flat tone, "it is time for you to gather your belongings and take your leave. This house belonged to me long before our paths ever crossed. You have until tomorrow to seek an alternative location." Without a word of protest, she simply nodded and ascended the stairs to gather her things. I remained in my place, enveloped by the remnants of what once constituted my existence. Yet, after a long stretch of time, a sense of clarity washed over me, bringing with it a profound calmness and a feeling of liberation. The dissolution of the marriage unfolded swiftly, aided by the compelling evidence at hand. Rachel Miller made an earnest attempt to pursue alimony, yet Marcus, our attorney, swiftly dismissed the notion with firm resolve. Considering her steady income as a nurse and the overwhelming amount of documentation I possessed, her request lacked any substantial basis. In Arizona, while the legal framework operates under a no-fault principle, the shadow of infidelity continues to influence the distribution of assets and the determination of support. Ultimately, she departed with her garments, her Honda Civic, and little else. The DNA results validated my initial suspicions. The child did not belong to me. Rachel Miller took up residence with Emily Parker, the travel nurse who had deftly maneuvered the entire situation by stepping in for her so-called shifts. As per the insights shared by mutual acquaintances, Emily Parker grew weary of her fast. Rachel Miller transformed into a figure of incessant distress, perpetually weeping, seeking unwavering compassion, and leaning heavily on Emily Parker to cover all expenses. In a mere 6 weeks, even Emily Parker had cast her aside. My father upheld every promise he made that evening. Ryan Scott's tenure with the company has come to an official end. He found himself barred from every job site, his name tarnished and blacklisted throughout the Phoenix construction network. Father reached out to several connections within the industry. The news traveled swiftly. Ryan Scott found himself unable to secure employment in the sole field he was familiar with. The flow of finances was abruptly halted as well. Gone are the days of BMW payments, credit cards, and cash handouts. For the very first time, Ryan Scott found himself alone, and the weight of that realization struck him profoundly. 3 weeks later, he found himself in handcuffs for operating a vehicle with a suspended license, expired tags, and lacking insurance. He had been evading car payments and found himself unable to afford insurance coverage. He endured 2 nights in county jail, while his father steadfastly declined to offer assistance. He instructed me to let him sit. Perhaps incarceration will impart lessons that life has failed to convey. Rachel Miller made multiple attempts to reintegrate herself. Messages, notifications, and even an unexpected visit to my workplace one afternoon, insisting we have a conversation, stated that we could navigate this together, that we might reconstruct. After she sent a message accusing me of the affair, I decided to block her on all platforms. She asserted that my dedication to work overshadowed her emotional requirements, the timeless reasoning of a deceiver. Shift the responsibility and adopt the role of the wronged party. Yet, what genuinely fulfilled me was observing the way my father interacted with my mother. He didn't merely erupt, he strategized with precision. It appears he had harbored doubts for quite some time, observed unusual spending habits and peculiar conduct. Upon acquiring all the necessary knowledge, he instructed Marcus to undertake a comprehensive audit of their financial records spanning the past 2 years. The results were harsh. Mother had been quietly backing DK, with approximately $3,000 each month, concealed credit lines, clandestine cash advances, and a second mortgage procured in secrecy from her father. She was depleting their resources to sustain DK's extravagant way of living, all the while embodying the ideal image of a devoted housewife. 6 weeks following that fateful dinner, my father took the step of filing for divorce. At 58, he had reached his limit. Weary of the deceit and manipulation that had plagued his life, Mother reached her breaking point, shouted, implored, entreated, yet he remained steadfast. This time, the separation unfolded with a tumultuous clamor. The clash of armies echoed through the land. Father retained the enterprise, the main residence, and the majority of the shared assets. Mother found herself in a flurry of activity. It had been more than 10 years since she last held a job. With no savings and no safety net, she found herself taking a retail position, of all places, at Target, earning a mere $12 an hour. The woman who once scolded store clerks now found herself bagging groceries for those half her age. D.K. relocated with her to a dilapidated 2-bedroom apartment on the other side of town. He made several attempts to return, pleading with his father for forgiveness, insisting that he had grasped the lesson at last. Yet, my father's reply remained unwavering. Your destiny was sealed the moment you betrayed your brother with a dagger in hand. Now, take a step forward. The most recent update I received was regarding DK. During the graveyard shift at Home Depot, I found myself immersed in the rhythm of stocking shelves and unloading freight trucks, all while navigating the challenges of barely making ends meet. Rachel Miller welcomed a new life into the world. A beautiful daughter. In a small, 1-bedroom apartment, she toils through extra shifts, striving to make ends meet for daycare expenses. Life has dealt her a harsh hand, and I must admit, I harbor no sympathy. Yet, a few months back, they appeared at my doorstep. Mother and DK. Unexpected guests. Their next inquiry nearly brought a chuckle to my lips. They urged me to choose the path of righteousness. They expected me to assert that Rachel Miller's child was mine, to inscribe my name on the birth certificate, to shoulder the burden of child support, and even to assist with DK's legal expenses so he could find his footing once more. What is their reasoning? We remain united as a family. All individuals err at times. No child should endure suffering. Indeed, you are the sole source of stability. The sheer boldness of it all continues to astonish me. Michael Carter, my mother said, you must rise above in this situation. The young girl yearns for a paternal presence, and you alone possess the ability to provide her with a fulfilling life. I met her gaze directly and declared, leave my property at once. Do not return. I expressed unequivocally that I would not bear the burden of others' errors, especially not those who sought to reduce my existence to ashes. They have already caused enough destruction. They would not be afforded another opportunity to tarnish what lay ahead. The police removed them from my property. The officer who emerged took the time to listen intently, examined the evidence I presented, and remarked that he had encountered numerous instances of family turmoil akin to this. He remarked that my decision to maintain meticulous records and to leave for good was a wise one. 8 months have passed since that fateful night, the night that altered the course of my existence. I will be straightforward. The initial months were nothing short of brutal. At the age of 30, I found myself in a moment of profound transformation, as if I were reconstructing my existence from its very foundations. All my beliefs regarding loyalty, family, and trust lay in ruins. Releasing those who were toxic in my life opened up a breath of fresh air and created a fertile ground for more positive experiences to flourish. My bond with my father has reached new heights. Once the chaos subsided, he welcomed me as a full business partner, entrusting me with a 40% stake in the company. Our conversations have revolved around the idea of expansion, particularly into the realm of commercial real estate development, beginning in Tucson, with the possibility of extending our reach to Las Vegas. The company is flourishing at this moment. In the absence of Ryan Scott, we have ceased our losses in clientele and begun to draw in more substantial contracts. Half a year post-divorce, I ventured into the world of dating once more. It was at a development conference in Vegas that I first crossed paths with Jessica Thompson. She is an architect specializing in the design of medical facilities and expansive commercial structures. She is determined, self-sufficient, and has no anticipation of being saved or controlled by anyone. She embodies all that Rachel Miller lacked: pragmatic, driven, independent. Being with her is akin to inhaling crisp, invigorating air after a long period of feeling stifled. Fragments of stories about Ryan Scott and Rachel Miller continue to reach my ears, shared by industry contacts, individuals in construction and healthcare who recall the events that transpired. In a mere span of 8 months, our Ryan Scott has cycled through 4 distinct jobs. He continues to exude an air of entitlement, convinced that he is above the necessity of hard work, utterly perplexed by the fact that no one wishes to retain his presence. Rachel Miller took to social media, making a heartfelt appeal for assistance, seeking funds to manage expenses related to her baby. It had the opposite effect. Those aware of the reality behind the events took to the comments, exposing her falsehoods, scrutinizing her decisions, and highlighting her attempts to portray herself as a victim after she had unraveled her own existence. My mother has made several feeble attempts to reach out to Dad via mutual acquaintances, asserting her desire to mend things for the family's sake and inquiring when he will cease his retribution each time she is met with rejection. His message remains steadfast. Your choice was clear when you chose to dismantle Michael Carter's marriage. Now you must embrace the path you have selected, much like all those around you. This entire experience has imparted a lesson that I find myself wishing I had grasped much earlier in my journey. Yet, there are moments when true comprehension eludes you, until the price is everything you hold dear. When individuals reveal their true selves, trust in their authenticity. Do not linger for additional proof. Refrain from extending them the grace of assumption repeatedly. Once is sufficient. Family transcends mere genetic connections. It revolves around supporting one another. It revolves around steadfast allegiance in crucial moments, honoring others when the situation is challenging, and choosing the path of righteousness even in solitude. Ryan Scott and my mother stumbled through that test in a most remarkable fashion. My father and I demonstrated our understanding of the true essence of family. In truth, the most exquisite form of justice has not emerged from confrontation or vengeance. It has observed their realms disintegrate as mine begins to coalesce at last, observing Ryan Scott's battle to make ends meet on a meager salary, witnessing Rachel Miller flounder in her own chaos, abandoned by those she once controlled, understanding that my mother now finds herself in retail, responding to the very individuals she once regarded with disdain. That is the essence of justice. For me, that suffices beyond measure.